I am recording everything you say. I am saving every lie, every twist of truth. My name is Ibrahim Traoré, and today, I will show the world who you really are. Yes, you heard me right. I am the young military leader you call dangerous. You say I am a radical. You label me as anti-Western, even a dictator. But today, I will speak the truth. And this time, you cannot turn off your microphones. You cannot look away. Your editors cannot cut out my words. Because the world you used to control, that world is gone. Now, millions of people can hear my voice. They will hear what I say without your editing, without your lies, without your tricks. I am 34 years old. And for all my life, I have seen your lies. As a child, I watched TV and saw how you showed Africa. Always the same images. Hungry children with flies on their faces. Dry land, war, and death. You said, "This is Africa." And we believed you. We felt ashamed. Ashamed of our people, of our land. But then I grew up. I started reading. I started learning. I started asking questions. And then, I saw the truth. I saw that the Africa you show, it was never real. The story you told us was a lie. The future you forced on us was already written by you long ago. How have you shown Africa to the world? How did you describe us? You showed us as if we were not fully human. As if we were wild people, far from civilization. As if we were helpless and always needed saving. Every day, every hour, every minute, the same image appears on your screens. Hunger, disease, corruption, terror, chaos. These are the words you always connect with Africa. In your version of Africa, no other words exist. There is no hope, no success, no progress. No strength, no pride, no victories. So I ask you, New York Times, Washington Post, The Guardian, have you ever made our successes your headlines? How many times have you talked about Rwanda's growth in technology? How many times have you shown Ethiopia's green revolution? How often have you praised Botswana's democracy? How many times have you highlighted Kenya's rising business culture? Never. Because these stories do not match your version of Africa. In your story, Africa must always stay weak and broken. Africa cannot be successful, because then how will you justify your exploitation? If Africa does not need help, how will you interfere? If it is not behind, how will you look down on it? Have you ever asked yourselves? Has any editor at their desk, any news director in a meeting, any writer at their keyboard, ever wondered, why are the people of the world's richest lands still poor? Let me show you the real numbers. Africa owns 70% of the world's cobalt reserves. Your phone, your laptop, your electric cars, they cannot run without cobalt. This cobalt comes from Congo. Yet the people of Congo cannot even afford a cell phone. Africa owns 90% of the world's platinum reserves. Platinum is needed in car parts, electronics, and medical tools. It comes from South Africa, but the people there face massive unemployment. Africa provides 30% of the world's gold. From Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Tanzania. Gold flows like rivers from our lands, yet our people still live in deep poverty. Africa supplies 65% of the world's diamonds. Botswana, Angola, Congo, Sierra Leone. Billions of dollars worth of diamonds are taken from here. But the miners live on just $1 a day. Africa owns 35% of the world's uranium. Niger, Namibia, South Africa. Nuclear power plants run because of our uranium. The lights of Paris glow because of it, yet our own villages live in darkness. Why is Africa poor? That is not the right question. The real question is, how has Africa been kept poor while being so rich? So, you want to know, how can a rich land be poor? Here is your answer. Colonialism never ended. It just changed its shape. You used to come and take our lands by force. Now you come and open your companies. You used to steal with weapons. Now you steal through agreements and contracts. You used to rule with whips. Now you rule with loans and debt. Let me give you some real facts, with numbers, names, and dates. But of course, you will never talk about this in your news. Look at Glencore, a mining company from Switzerland. They take cobalt from Congo. In 2022, they earned $256 billion. They gave Congo only $500 million in tax. That is just 0.2%. Is this fair? Now look at Rio Tinto, a British-Australian company. They take bauxite from Guinea, about 20 million tons every year. What does Guinea get? Pollution. Cancer. Sickness. Look at Total Energies, a French oil company. They take oil from Angola, Nigeria, and Congo. In 2022, they made $36 billion in profit. What did they build for Africa? Dirty oil pipelines. Then there is Anglo American, a mining company. It started in South Africa, now it is based in London. It takes diamonds, platinum, and iron. What is left in South Africa? 6 million unemployed miners. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. What about the things you cannot see? Secret deals, offshore accounts, hidden tricks in prices. Every year, $88 billion of illegal money leaves Africa. Who talks about that? No one. But when $45 billion of aid comes to Africa, everyone talks about it. But listen closely. Africa is not receiving aid. Africa is giving aid. While your cameras focus on children with empty stomachs, a massive system works silently in the background. Every day, tons of gold, diamonds, cobalt, uranium, oil leave our land. But how? Here is the system. Step 1. Create corruption. Bribe our leaders. Give them offshore bank accounts. Promise them a rich lifestyle. Send their children to your schools. Step 2. Make long deals. Get 50-year or 99-year contracts. Ask for no taxes. Ignore environmental laws. Forget about workers' rights. Step 3. Control our infrastructure. Take over our ports, airports, and railways. But only 4. They build roads from the mine to the harbor. But they do not build roads to our villages. They do not bring electricity to our schools. Step 4. They create security forces. They set up private security companies, give them guns, and then call every protest a threat. Step 5. They control the media. They buy local journalists. They silence anyone who speaks the truth. They show the world only what they want. News of chaos, violence, and fear. And this is how the system works. It has been working like this for over 100 years. You do not see this system. Or maybe you do not want to see it. Because you are part of it too. Look at who pays for your news. New York Times, CNN, BBC. Who are their biggest advertisers? Oil companies, mining companies, weapons companies, big drug companies. These are the same companies that exploit Africa. You live off their money. You protect their power. What I am about to say may be dangerous. It may even cost me my life. But I will not stay silent anymore. Let me tell you about France's system in Africa. It is called the CFA franc. Even today, 14 African countries still use France's colonial currency. 50% of their central bank reserves are kept in the French treasury. France pays negative interest, so these countries actually pay France to hold their own money. Through this system, France takes about $500 billion worth of African resources every year. Does anyone talk about this? But when France gives 10 billion euros in aid, it becomes breaking news. Now let us talk about Britain's system. It is more clever, more hidden. London is the center of money laundering in the world. The City of London is a safe home for stolen wealth. Where does the money go? To places like Jersey, Guernsey, Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands, all under British rule. Africa's stolen money is hidden there. And what about America? They have something called AFRICOM, the Africa Command. 46 military bases across the continent. They say it is for security, but the real reason is control of resources. They fly drones over our skies. They place listening devices in our lands. They say they are fighting terrorism, but they are not after terrorists. They are watching our leaders, our people who try to stand up. And now there is China. Now, a new player has entered Africa. They say it is win-win. They build roads, bridges, and railways. They give us loans and credit. But in return, they ask for 99-year port leases, mining rights, farming land, and they create a trap called debt diplomacy. Do not believe me? Ask Sri Lanka. Ask Zambia. But you do not write about this. Because you are not a free press. You are a corporate press. Your bosses are billionaires. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Did he buy it for the love of journalism? No, he bought it for power. Rupert Murdoch owns Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, the Sun, and the Times. All these media houses, from the same hand, all giving the same message. The West is good. Others are bad. Carlos Slim, the richest man in Mexico, is the largest shareholder in the New York Times. Where did his wealth come from? Monopoly on telecoms. He got rich off the backs of Latin Americans. Now he controls one of the world's most respected newspapers. And yet, you call this independent journalism? Let me ask, who are your editors? Which schools did they go to? Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge. Always the same elite schools. Always the same worldview. Always the same bias. How are your reporters selected? How many languages do they speak? The Africa correspondent knows only French and English, but not Swahili, Hausa, Yoruba, or Amharic. They do not understand the people. They do not speak our languages. Yet, they write our stories. Who are your sources? Western diplomats? NGOs? Foreign experts. Then you come and lecture us. You never talk about this. They killed Patrice Lumumba? January 12, 1961. CIA agent Larry Devlin confessed. Belgian mercenaries executed him. They dissolved his body in acid, then took his teeth as trophies. In 2022, Belgium finally returned that tooth to his family, after 61 years. And what did your media say then? Chaos in Congo. Not a word about the killers. No deep dive into CIA documents. No reports on Belgium's crimes. They also killed Thomas Sankara, October 15, 1987. He was my hero, Africa's hope. He vaccinated 2.5 million children against deadly diseases. He planted 10 million trees. He raised literacy from 13% to 73%. He gave equal rights to women. He banned TIFIM. He ended corruption. He sold Mercedes government cars and used a Renault 5 instead. He said no to the IMF and World Bank. Most importantly, he said, we will not pay Africa's debts. We did not create those debts. The puppets before us created them, on behalf of the colonizers. That was the moment. They decided he had to die. And they killed him. Who killed Thomas Sankara? His best friend, Blaise Compaoré, with support from France. Do you want proof? Look at the Foccart archives. Jacques Foccart, France's top advisor on African affairs. Everything is written there. But what did your media say? Military coup in Burkina Faso. You did not talk about Sankara's dreams. You did not share his projects. You did not show his achievements. You just said, another dictator died. And then, Muammar Gaddafi. Yes, he was a dictator. Yes, he was ruthless. But what did he do for Libya? Per capita income, $12,000, the highest in Africa. Literacy rate, from 25% to 87%. Life expectancy, from 51 to 74 years. Free health care. Free education. $50,000 for newly married couples. Interest-free home loans. $5,000 for every newborn child. Gasoline price, only 14 cents per liter. The Great Man-Made River. A massive irrigation project to green the desert. But his real crime? He dreamed of a United States of Africa. He wanted to create an African central bank, an African investment bank, an African monetary fund, and most dangerous of all, the gold dinar, a new currency backed by gold, refusing to sell oil in US dollars. That was unforgivable. On October 20, 2011, he was lynched in Surrey. And what did Hillary Clinton say? He came. He died. She laughed. Now look at Libya. 3 governments, all fighting each other. Endless civil war. ISIS and Al-Qaeda roaming free. Slave markets. Yes, Even CNN showed it in 2017. Oil is stolen. Weapons depots emptied. Spread across the continent like fire. Tell me, do you call this democracy? Do you call this freedom? Do you call this a success? Then now, whose turn is it? The Sahel, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. You want to make us another Libya. You want to turn us into Syria, into Iraq. But not this time. Because we are awake. We have learned. We have united. You called it Operation Barkhane. France's Sahel adventure, from 2013 to 2022. Official reason? Fighting terrorism. Real reason? Resource control. 5,000 to 10,000 French soldiers deployed. 1 billion euros per year. And what is the result? In 2013, there were 500 terrorists in Mali. In 2022, there are 5,000 plus terrorists across the Sahel. That is a tenfold increase. What kind of success is that? What were the French soldiers really doing? Were they protecting Niger's uranium mines for the French company Orano? Securing oil pipelines for Total? Controlling ports and railways for Balor? Fighting terrorism? They were doing the opposite. Terrorists could not come within 50 kilometers of French soldiers. But they could still burn our villages. They could still kill our people. Because chaos served their purpose. If there is chaos, they can say, we must stay. For your security. Then there was MINUSMA, the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali. 15,000 soldiers. $1.2 billion per year. 10 years in Mali. And what is the result? Over 300 UN soldiers killed. Thousands of civilians killed. Terrorism didn't decrease. It increased. And now you say, Wagner is dangerous. The Russians are taking over Africa. But what happened when Wagner came? Just 1,000 soldiers. And within 6 months, terrorists ran away. Villages became safe. Mines started working again. People felt peace. So what is the difference? Wagner is an ally. We invited them. France is an occupier. They came by force. Wagner follows agreements. France blackmails. Wagner brings results. France brings excuses. But you still do not tell the truth. You say, Russian mercenaries. Really? Then what is the French Foreign Legion? Are they not mercenaries? What about American Blackwater, now called Academy, British G4S, Israeli Black Cube? They are all private security companies. But Wagner is a threat. Why? Because Wagner is not yours. Now let's talk about terrorism. Who created this terror? Who founded Al-Qaeda? It was the 1980s in Afghanistan. The CIA, Pakistan's ISI, and Saudi Arabia's money all came together to fight the Soviets. Osama bin Laden? He was trained by the CIA. You called them freedom fighters. And later, Taliban? You supported them too. You said they were heroic mujahideen, brave warriors against Soviet occupation. You gave them weapons, money, training. But then you lost control. And what about ISIS? Where did it come from? 2003, the invasion of Iraq. You toppled Saddam Hussein. You disbanded the Iraqi army. You banned the Ba'ath party. You tortured prisoners at Abu Ghraib. And what happened next? People became ISIS. Then came Syria, and you said, Assad must go. You talked about moderate rebels. You sent weapons. But those weapons ended up with ISIS. With al-Nusra. With the very terrorists you claimed to fight. You destroyed Libya. You looted Gaddafi's weapon depots. And where did those weapons go? To Mali, to Niger, to Burkina Faso, to Nigeria, to Chad. You fueled Boko Haram. In 2009, when Nigerian police executed their leader Mohammed Yusuf without a trial, what did you say? Nothing. Where were your human rights organizations then? They were silent. And after that, Boko Haram became radicalized. They started a war. And what gave them power? Weapons from Libya. From the Libya that you destroyed. And now, you come to lecture us about fighting terrorism? You say, we're helping you. You are helping to clean up the mess you created. But it is too late. We have seen the game now. Terrorism was your Trojan horse. You came using the excuse of terror. You stayed to exploit. But it is over now. We will protect ourselves. We will fight our own battles in our own way. And we will win. Because we are the children of this land. We know this land. We know these people. We can tell the difference between a terrorist and a villager. You fight with drones. You fight from satellites. You launch attacks from 10,000 kilometers away. We are on the ground. And now, in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, terror is ending. Villages are safe. People have hope. Because now, our own army, our own police, are fighting not for foreigners, but for our people. And that is what you cannot accept. So now you say, democracy is dying. Human rights are being violated. But tell us, which democracy? Whose human rights? How many people are still in Guantanamo, detained without trial? What happened in Abu Ghraib? Who did you kill in Bagram? Who did you torture in your CIA black sites? Why is Julian Assange in prison? For exposing your war crimes? Why did Chelsea Manning spend years behind bars? For telling the truth? Why is Edward Snowden a fugitive? For revealing you spy on the world? And you want to teach us about human rights? How many civilians died in your drone strikes? You call it collateral damage and just move on. How many weddings did you bomb? In Pakistan, in Yemen, in Somalia? How many schools did you destroy? How many hospitals did you burn? And you come here to teach us? We do not need your lessons. We need you to stop lying and leave us in peace. You talk about the laws of war. Let me tell you something. I come from war. I have stood on the front lines. I have seen death up close. I have carried the wounded. I have held the hands of dying soldiers. I have looked into the eyes of mothers whose sons never came home. So do not lecture me. Because I know. A real soldier protects his people. A real soldier does not harm civilians. A real soldier fights with honor. But what about your soldiers? Drone pilots pressing buttons from 10,000 kilometers away. Special forces who shoot and vanish in the night. Mercenaries who fight for money, not for people. They are not soldiers. They are killers. Then go home, kiss their children, and sleep like nothing happened. But we do not fight like that. We look our enemy in the eye. We fight with our hands, with our hearts. We protect civilians even when it costs us. We fight with honor. We die with honor. And that is why we will win. Because the righteous win. Because those who fight with their people win. Because those who fight for their land always win. But let us move on. Let us talk about your media. I know how it works. I have friends inside the system. Good people. Journalists with a conscience. But they stay silent. Because the system silences them. Those who write the truth get fired. Investigative reporters are laid off. Budget cuts, they say. Columnists who question the narrative? Shown the door. Reader interest has declined. And who replaces them? So-called experts. From think tanks. From NGOs. From elite universities. All saying the same thing. All defending the same lie. The West is good. Africa is bad. We are civilized. You are corrupt. We bring democracy. You breed chaos. But who are these experts? Where does their money come from? From the National Endowment for Democracy, the NED. They say they spread democracy. But what they really spread is control. The CIA's legal arm. Their fingers are everywhere. They fund the opposition. They direct the media. They build fake civil society that speaks their language and serves their purpose. Then comes the Open Society Foundations. George Soros's machine. They call it an open society. But open for whom? Open to what? Open to what? Open to exploitation. Open to intervention. Open to manipulation. You parade your foundations. Ford Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. All over Africa. Wearing the mask of aid. But what do they really bring? Not just help. They bring control. They harvest data. They buy influence. They reshape policy, rewrite futures, without asking us. And your media? It plays the trumpet. Gates is saving Africa, the headlines shout. But do you mention how many African children were paralyzed during his vaccine trials? Do you report how many farmers took their own lives after being trapped by Monsanto's seeds? You are masters of storytelling. But it is always the same story. The white savior. Remember Live Aid, 1985? We Are the World. The global charity concert for Africa. Millions raised. And what came to us? Corruption increased. Dependency deepened. But oh, what a story for you. Bob Geldof became a hero. Musicians looked compassionate. Viewers felt righteous. And Africa? Still hungry. Then came Kony 2012. A viral video. Stop Joseph Kony. 100 million views. A tidal wave of emotion. What changed? Kony is still free. But the video maker got rich. Invisible children raised millions. And what arrived in Uganda? American soldiers. Yet again, you call it a success story. Angelina Jolie. Madonna. All come as Africa's volunteers. They take photos. They adopt children. Then they leave. And you say, interest in Africa is rising. What interest? Whose interest? Interest for what? Madonna adopted a child from Malawi. The world watched. Headlines exploded. But did they tell you that 100 children die every day in Malawi from malaria? Because that does not sell. That is not marketable grief. Bono became the spokesman for Africa. Raised billions through concerts and causes. But shifted his company to the Netherlands to avoid paying taxes. Funny, isn't it? Money stolen from Africa also flows through the Netherlands. Did your media ever write that? George Clooney said, "Save Darfur." Stood on red carpets. Gave passionate speeches. And then what? Sudan split. Oil stayed in South Sudan. And South Sudan fell into civil war. Now tell me, who's getting the oil? Take a guess. But still, you paint it all as humanitarian aid. This is imperialism with a soft face. This is PR-driven exploitation. Let me show you the truth. Every year, Africa receives $134 billion in aid and investment. Sounds generous? Now listen closely. $192 billion in resources, profits, and capital leave Africa every single year. A net loss of $58 billion every year. But what do your headlines say? Only Africa receives $134 billion. Never. Africa loses $192 billion. Because then the world would start asking, if Africa is so rich, why does it need aid? Let us break it down. Illicit financial flows, $88.6 billion. Corporate profit transfers, $48.2 billion. Debt interest payments, $17 billion. Brain drain losses, $13.8 billion. Climate change costs, $10.6 billion. Illegal logging, $17 billion. Illegal fishing, $1.3 billion. Added up, over $192 billion leaves Africa every year. And yet, your headlines read, EU pledges 20 billion euros to Africa. China offers $60 billion in credit. America grants $8 billion in aid. People read these and feel proud. People read these and think, we are helping Africa. But they never ask, who is helping Africa escape the help? How generous they are. How charitable. And yet, how ungrateful Africa is, right? That is the story you tell. But the truth? The truth is the opposite. Africa is financing your lifestyle. Africa is subsidizing your prosperity. Africa is the foundation of your technology. The cobalt in your iPhone? Congo. The lithium in your Tesla? Zimbabwe. The tantalum in your computer? Rwanda. Your diamonds and gold? Botswana. Your chocolate? Ivory Coast. Your coffee? Ethiopia. Your oil? Nigeria. Your uranium? Niger. And what do we get? Poverty. Humiliation. But this game, it ends now. Because we have awakened. Because our youth are rising. Because the truth is spreading. Unstoppable. Social media became our battlefield. #BarFranceOut. used 100 million times. Hashtag Africa is bleeding, over 50 million. Hashtag Stop Exploiting Africa, 75 million and counting. And what do? You panic. You shout, Russian bots. You cry, Chinese propaganda. You whisper, disinformation. But no, these are real voices. From real Africans. With real pain. And real fire. Millions of youth on TikTok. Celebrating French soldiers leaving. Videos on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Applauding Wagner's arrival. Explaining what your media hides. And you are losing. Losing the narrative. Losing the monopoly. So what do? You build fact-checking organizations. Africa Check. AFP Fact Check. But who funds them? Facebook, Google, Bill Gates. The same empire, wrapped in a new name. But what are you checking? Whose facts are you defending? France exploits $500 billion a year from Africa. You say, no, false, only $440 billion. As if that changes anything. As if $440 billion is small. As if precision erases plunder. Wagner is effective. You say, but Wagner violates human rights. And you? What about your hands? Were French soldiers bombing Fani villages? Arming Don militias? Accidentally striking weddings? Your hypocrisy is so blatant, so obvious. No one believes you anymore. Remember what Anderson Cooper said on CNN? Democracy is declining in Africa. Which democracy, Anderson? Your democracy? America's democracy? The democracy of the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021? You called that an attack on democracy. 5 people died. Our Sankara assassination, October 15, 1987? You called it an internal matter. 1 person died. But that 1 person was the hope of 20 million people. In your elections, corporations fund candidates. Lobbyists write laws. You call our elections rigged. In your country, police kill black people, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and yet you lecture us about police violence. On the BBC, Kaza Madera presents Africa News. How many years has she lived in Africa? How many African languages does she speak? Yet every day, she speaks as an Africa expert. Africa is like this. Africa is like that. On France 24, the cameramen, editors, producers, most are French. Even the Africa correspondents, mostly French. And they do objective journalism. Even Al Jazeera Qatar funds it. What business does Qatar have in the Sahel? Yet every day, they report on the Sahel crisis. Whose crisis? Whose story are they telling? Deutsche Welle, Voice of America, RFI. All state media. All propaganda tools. But they play the role of independent media. And our local media? Most are sold out. Most are cowards. Most are dependent. Look at Lee's newspaper in Burkina Faso. Who is the editor? Where did he get his education? Where does his funding come from? Who are his advertisers? We know the answers. All tied to the same system. All part of the same game. Serving the same master. But a new generation is rising. Bloggers, YouTubers, podcast. They have no masters. They have no fears. Gems, Coco, Natalie, Yam, Kimmy, Saba. Millions follow them. They speak truth. They expose the system. And you label them extremists. You try to shut down their Twitter. You restrict their YouTube. But in vain. Truth cannot be stopped. You close one channel, 10 more open. You silence one voice, 1,000 rise. Here is my final message to you. Your lies are ending. Your empire is collapsing. Your monopoly is breaking. And what replaces it? Truth, justice, freedom. Africa is no longer your story. Africa is writing its own story. Filming with its own cameras. Speaking in its own languages. And in this story, you are not heroes. You are not saviors. You are not benefactors. In this story, you are the guilty, colonizers, liars, thieves. But still, you have a chance. You can still change. You can still stand on the right side. There are journalists with conscience among you. I know them. I recognize them. We talk. I call out to them. Gather your courage. Write the truth. Rebel against the system. You might get fired. You might become unemployed. You might be threatened. But you will be on the right side of history. You will look at your children's faces without shame. Your conscience will rest peacefully. And Africa will not forget you. Africa remembers its friends and its enemies. Be like Edward Snowden. Be like Julian Assange. Be like Daniel Ellsberg. Stand with truth. Or continue with your lies. Continue with your blindness. Continue with your complicity. But know this, your end is coming. Your viewers are shrinking. Your credibility is fading. Your power is draining. The new generation does not believe you. The new generation does not listen to you. The new generation rejects you. And that new generation in Africa is 600 million strong. 60% under 25 years old. Educated. Connected. Angry. They are my army. They are my weapon. They are my victory. And with them, we are building a new world. A world without lies. Without exploitation. Without humiliation. In this world, Africa will be free. Africa will be strong. Africa will be a leader. And you? You will remain a bad memory. A shameful footnote. A cautionary tale future generations will read in history books. At the beginning of the 21st century, there were media organizations. They lied. They served exploitation. Then Africa awakened. And they disappeared. That is your end. Inevitable. Unchangeable. Certain. I am Ibrahim Traore. Not Burkina Faso's leader, but its servant. Not Africa's dictator, but its child. And not your nightmare, but your mirror. Look well at this mirror. See yourself. See your lies. See your hypocrisy. See your crimes. Because Judgment Day is coming. Africa is awakening. The world is changing. Justice is manifesting. And you? You will only watch. You will not be able to do anything else. Because history is on the side of the people. Truth is on the side of the oppressed. God is on the side of those who persevere. And we have persevered. For 500 years. Now it is time for victory. Your lies are finished. Your masks have fallen. Your game has ended. Africa is free. Africa is strong.